Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, or good night, wherever you are. We are at the SEO Kitchen Show brought to you by Oncrawl on day 3, and this is episode 7 with me, Jacqueline, your moderator from Gis.id, and we have amazing speakers here. Okay, so guys, please introduce yourselves, guys and girls.
Yes, hello. So I'm Rory. I'm head of content SEO at HubSpot. I've been in SEO for about 8 or 9 years, and I lead the wonderful team at HubSpot that look after the HubSpot blog, the academy, and all of our micro apps and tools. And I'm very much looking forward to the discussion today. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Rory. Okay, next, Chima maybe?
Hi, my name is Chima Mmeje. I run Zenith Copy. Yes, I'm a content writer. Sometimes I forget what I do. Sorry. I'm a content writer and I also do content strategy. And I also run the Freelance Coalition for Developing Countries.
Okay, great. Thanks for coming. And then Rejoice.
Hi, so I'm Rejoice. I am a content strategist at Rise at 7. I've mostly been doing SEO content most of my career, and I'm also the co-founder of Be Digital UK.
Okay, great. And then we have Himani.
Hey, hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And I'm Himani, founder of Massive Digital. It's an organic marketing agency that specializes everything around marketing that focuses on content. So, especially featured snippets. So, that's what we focus on.
Great, Himani. Okay, we have four amazing speakers with us, and me, just as a host or moderator today, am Jacqueline, head of growth at Gits.id. Gits.id is an IT consultant company in Indonesia. So we have people in creating a mobile application or website. Okay, before we start to our hit discussion about STEAM content and technical SEO, I suggest you to keep this discussion alive by sending your questions in the questions box, and we will answer that after this discussion. And then grab your phone and post on your social media. Yeah, with hashtag the SEO Kitchen Show and tag Oncrawl. Okay, are you ready, guys? The audience and the speakers? Okay, we have around 40 minutes to tackle our questions here. First questions. Okay. Well, when we are talking about content KPIs, key performance indicators, what is your opinion? I mean, the most important KPI in the content. What should we be measuring with regard to the SEO success of content and how? Okay, who wants to go first?
I don't mind going first. I think for me, this all just really depends on the business goals. I think it's very hard to have a specific content KPI, even though there are quite a few. But at the end of the day, is the content has to benefit the goals of the business, and whether that is revenue, whether that is engagement. So within engagement, you can look at things like comments or share of voice and all those things. But I think in SEO, it's very important to really consider what is the essence of why a business wants to optimize their content, or what is the importance of them optimizing content, what are they trying to get to. You don't want to kind of go into that dangerous path of kind of doing a one size fits all, because certain metrics might not be as useful, even though we consider it to be a good metric, but it might not be useful to what the business is actually trying to drive.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think I'm just going to piggyback off what we just said around business goals, because most of the times around SEO especially, we tend to have very vague KPIs for content, and then we fall into that zone where we generalize what results should look like. But at the same time, we have to be realistic and still say, on a broad level, there are some KPIs that I personally want to be seen for clients and what I call a win. So for me, it would start at um traffic. I want to see traffic. I want to see that the client is getting more traffic from subs because of the work I'm doing. I want to see the content that are performing the best, because then I can understand why are these ones performing the best and why are there some other content pieces that are not doing too well, and then maybe use that as the standard when writing other content pieces. I want to see which of our internal links people are clicking the most, and then maybe that can tell me how we can improve our internal linking structure. I also want to understand the pieces that people are taking the most action on, and that is on the text CTA, and then the ones that are combating. Because I think content, especially blog content, has that power to guide people to take bottom of the funnel action if you do the CTA right. Um, Again, I also want to see the content pieces that, one, people are spending the most time reading, and that, two, get people to spend more time on other content pieces on the website. So I guess I'm tracking a lot of stuff around KPI because I'm very ambitious, but at the same time, it's doable if you're writing content the right way and you have a holistic strategy around it.
I think that's super interesting, Chima. I think from my perspective, you could look at content KPIs on a tactical level and on a strategic level. So if you're looking at the strategic level, you might be trying to build in KPIs that measure the performance of content from organic search at various stages of the customer journey, of the sales journey. If you can bring revenue data into play, which I know, Joyce, I think you mentioned earlier, I think that's really key, being able to track URL performance against revenue or qualified leads. It's easier in e-commerce to do revenue, but you can also do it in B2B if you have CRM. And then that can help you build out the strategic KPIs. Then on the tactical level, you can look at things, I know as Chima was mentioning, traffic, UX signals, backlinks, and those are the sort of things that are going to really improve your performance on the tactical level and impact those strategic KPIs as well.
Right. Even it's like, everything that Rory, Rejoice, and Chima told, right? So it's like all of these KPIs are very much important. And with the type of clients that we work with, it's like, SaaS companies and even publishing sites, right? So even both of these websites have different goals. These larger publishing sites come to us with saying that, okay, Himani, we just want featured snippets, right? So it's like, that becomes our goal, that, we have to look at the featured snippets. Other than that, at SaaS companies, they are like, they are focusing a lot on, the quality of leads, MPLs, marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads. So what happens is that, they have to focus on, the type of quality that they have built, the ticket size that they are going to convert, right? So that also becomes a very important KPI to look at. And obviously, we have a lot of tools, we have analytics, we have so we even have these CRMs, right, to gauge the quality of the leads, right? So that is how it is something, performance is something how we measure at Mr.
Okay, good answers from these people. So yeah, basically I agree with this. Also, like traffic, and then we measure how we can get qualified leads from that content, and yeah, also we can use that leads to into our CRM or convert to our sales, and etc, etc. Okay, that's so great. Okay, if you have other answers, audience, you can do it in the chat also. Okay, and we move to the next question. How much of content success in SEO plays out on the website? how much is related to what is displayed on SERP, search engine result page, and how do you reconcile these two? Okay, so how much content success in SEO plays out on the website? So how much which is the content is success and how much it will affect the website, and what is really displayed on a SERP? Is it success? How related is it that if the content is displayed on a SERP and then we say that it is a success? How? Yeah.
I'd happily go for this one, Jacqueline. Thank you. I think from my perspective, I think content success sort of plays out across both. So how the teams I've been involved with over the past have approached this is your keyword research and your search landscape analysis are two crucial components in developing a successful SEO strategy, because they're going to enable you to build out your keyword targeting planner. And by identifying the keywords you want to rank for, and then analyzing the SERP features that appear for those keywords and tagging them based upon intent and topic, you can then understand and determine the content planning that you need to put together to target those keywords and what page templates you need, the intent of a keyword that you're trying to target, if you need to bring in bullet points, subheadings that can win the answer box. So I think using the SERP features to inform your keyword targeting planner and then your content strategy as a result is really important. And of course, the quality of content's key. So even with that information, you're still going to need to create high quality content, which is very hard, and maintain it. So I think they both play a role.
Okay, so from keyword research and then the structure of the content. What type of content or how you put in the content, like bullet point or everything that it's related to what the content is about.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And even if I have to brief this out, it's like nowadays SEO, the success of SEO lives on content. Apart from if we talk about all the technical things, and if we have to look at the back things, everything revolves around content, right? So it's like, if 80 to 90% of your content are performing really well, you are, the next brand that people would remember.
Okay. Okay, and maybe Rejoice and Chima have another answer.
No, I'm going to skip this one.
Okay,
Yeah, because I
fine.
think for me the question is quite interesting in terms of like how much content success in SEO plays on the website. Because I think the way I sort of visualize content, it does carry quite a lot of weight for any sort of website or SEO strategy, especially how SEO in general is split between technical and between content. For me, it's always a 50-50 because I think one cannot be done without the other, or the success of one can benefit the success of the other. So, for example, the technical structure of your website can be great, but then the content aspect, if that's weak, then really and truly you don't have an overarching SEO success, because they two kind of coincide together, in my opinion. So that's what I think. It's very hard to have a definite split, because it's like technical and content are kind of married off. This couple where you kind of have to play and look at the strategy cohesively and kind of get that to work. In saying that, because of how search is in general, search is about user experience. It is about, what the buyer's journey is all about, and what your consumers or readers are kind of thinking. Your content has to sort of align with improving that user experience and sort of answering those questions. So yeah, it is quite tough to say, content carries this percentage and it doesn't. You kind of have to look at it as they come as a pair, and that's how the success is kind of established.
I think that's really interesting, Rejoice. I think it's like there's breadcrumbs in the SERPs. So you kind of see these little indicators of how you're going to structure and format your content. And then that's where a lot of technical comes into play. So you can add structured data, schema to get FAQ results or to get other additional SERP features. So it's very difficult to decouple them. They're very much in it together. But yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I saw like there is a schema with information, and there are a lot of types of schema that we can use. Yeah, but thankfully my website is not really need to do all those schema because, but yeah, that's so interesting if we have a certain type of content and we can do with this kind of schema, so it will help on our SERP as well. Okay, great. Okay, let's move to the next question. Okay, so how do search engines understand what your content is about? Okay.
Okay. I think I can attempt
Yeah.
what I can just try to like make sense of what's going on in my head when I think of how Google especially understands content. For new websites, it's a long game because you're still in the beginning stage where Google is still trying to like gather data to understand how best to classify your website, your content, and all of that stuff. So I think the best way to help search engines understand it for new websites is to rely heavily on semantic SEO, because then you can start to feed. Okay, I don't want to use the word feed because then it just sounds like I'm talking about SEO content and gaming the system. No, you can start to create semantic rich content also using NLP, which is natural language processing, to help them understand this is what we do. These are the kind of topics we're going after. These are the kind of keywords we're going after. These are the kind of entities that are related to those keywords. This is what we want to be known for. That is really going to speed up the pace, because this was something we did when I was working in-house. New websites would come in. This is the type of business they were into, let's say real estate. We would use NLP tools to extract as much entities as possible. We would write content on those entities. We would interlink heavily between them. And then as that site was launching, there would be around 500 pages of content launching alongside those main web pages. And within 3 months, I shit you not, that new website will be ranking for some basic queries, and then within 6 months they'll start to see results. So I think this is something that Google is looking at: semantic entities, NLP, topics, and all that stuff. But for more established sites, I think what Google is really looking at, they're looking at it. I'm not saying it's a ranking factor. I'm just saying that it's helping them to understand, is this website an authority that we should be ranking? Then they're also looking at other stuff that we already know about, like backlinks. They're also looking at entities. They're also looking at the kind of schema that you're using to optimize those content pieces. And then I think it would be interesting to learn how Google understands context. Yes, I think that's something would be interesting to know, because I've seen from analyzing a lot of content pieces that they can understand context. Maybe, I'm guessing, is by looking at internal links, is by looking at entities that are coming up among the top rated content pieces for that query on SERP, and maybe by looking at backlinks, because try as we may, backlinks are still important. So this is what I think that Google is using when they're trying to understand content. For new websites, as much as possible, entities, semantics, and for more established websites, they're looking at authority, which are factors like backlinks and all that stuff.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I cannot agree more with Chima. It's like, the basic document of Google guidelines. Even they say that they get to know about content through links, right? So it is something that internal link or external link, that becomes something really important to help search engines understand what the page will be, right? So that has made it a very base thing to start with, right? To help search engines understand about a content. And slowly and gradually, as Chima mentioned about semantics, entities, all of those things, just go in that direction.
Okay, great, Himani. Okay, any other who disagree? Maybe with backlink and semantic and internal link. Yeah.
I think we definitely should consider some of the algorithms I think Google comes out with sometimes. I think they do have some sort of help. I think, when thinking about, for example, intent, for any sort of keywords and stuff like that. I know that the whole BERT language model is quite helpful because I think as marketers, we can get quite stuck on trying to piece a keyword exactly the same way. So, for example, if the keyword is, where is London? You always trying to put that keyword in that structure each time. Whereas Google has sort of created algorithms to understand surrounding text that gives it that context. So I think we need to take into consideration the actual language models being built. And of course, Chima is right. Authority and links and all those stuff adds to it. But from a technical perspective or technicality perspective, Google's doing much better in bringing out these algorithms to kind of understand us as humans, because we don't always search in a conventional way. We do search in more conversational manners, and therefore Google needs to have some sort of algorithm to understand those conversations and the context around our conversations.
Wouldn't it
Okay,
make our
great.
lives easier if they could just publish everything that they're using to rank, and then we wouldn't be having this discussion?
Very true. Very true.
Yeah, I think finally, just I completely agree with everything that's been said here around entities, internal linking, building relevance and authority of your content in relation to what you're trying to rank for. I think quite a nice sort of simple way of thinking about it would be search engines are going to be looking at off-page factors and they're going to be looking at on-page factors. And your on-page factors might be things like your page titles, your H1s, your schema, your structured data, your keywords that you include, because of course they are still important, images, alt tags, video, the internal linking, which is kind of on page but also off page, and the format of your page templates, JavaScript. I know someone's put in the chat about a concern about how JavaScript is rendered and how content is perceived based upon the JavaScript that you're using. So definitely consider your search engines looking at what's on page, and then from an off page perspective, well, Chima, Rejoice, Himani have talked through that already, and it's massively backlinks, EAT, entities, etc. So on page and off page, I think, are quite a nice way of thinking about it.
Yeah, great, good guys. Okay, so yeah, I think also, I mean, search engines, maybe like Google and the others, it's like they are made to be like smarter and smarter, and the algorithm, let's say Google algorithm, it's like evaluating, keep keep re-evolution, like they are keep growing and keep getting smarter. And before this, maybe we can cheat the keywords and etc targeting things with maybe not really high quality content, but now it's they can understand what our content is about without like really talking about the exact keywords. Okay, great. Okay, let's move to the next one. Nah, and then how can you improve content in the search engine's eyes?
This is my favorite.
Lots of keyword stuffing. That's what works.
I mean, I still remember people talk about a lot of, keyword density still. I mean, I'm like, wonderful. These guys are still staying in the era of, Panda and Penguin updates. There it used to be, keyword density used to play a lot of role there. Right. So, okay. So, we consider this as, that if you optimize your content and make it, say, findable, indexable, rankable, shareable, and even linkable, so we make it in a this way that, it has to be found by search engines. Obviously, their links play a great role. Then it has to be, say, indexable. We have seen a lot of issues these days, no? Discovered but not indexed, crawled but not indexed, right? This even happened with our new website. So it's like, the moment we started optimizing the content that were optimized, those were getting ranked, indexed first of all. And then they went to started ranking. So once they are indexed, it becomes really important for us to even take care of whether they are ranking well or not, right? Just after indexing, the work doesn't stop, right? So we have to keep on updating the site, the content, so that it ranks better, right? Especially for the highly competitive industry where you have market leaders who have the entire search is filled with market leaders. Rory, you must be knowing that HubSpot is itself is yielding to a lot of searches, right? So it becomes really difficult when you have to compete with high authority sites. So you have to make sure that these sites rank well, right? So for that, you have to look at the quality of the content, right? Whether it is providing more value than the competing blogs or not, right? There, this quality becomes really important to make them rank. And then, obviously, if your content is ranking well, and even if it is getting very good, attention from your target audience, right? So, say, for example, your target audience are sharing it on Reddit, they are sharing on Twitter, on their internal Slack channels. This could be anything, right? So if that content is shareable, that becomes really important for even search engines to understand that, oh, this is getting shared a lot, right? So that's how they pick it up, and then they make it better in rank. And even
Yeah,
lastly,
great.
but not the least, it's the linkable. People should be linking back to your content. Recently, there were studies about, that writing those statistics kind of content and getting organic backlinks. So that
Okay,
is something that, that is just one way of doing it, but there are many ways where we can do it, where we can
great,
pick
Himani.
content that is very valuable, that could, grab links for itself. So if these things are, better, that, you're crawling, indexing, your quality, the, how you're explaining your point to your target audience, that becomes really important. So, I always keep on telling that more than search intent, you should be looking at users reading intent, how much they are enjoying your content, yeah, right? How much they are reading it. As Chima explained earlier that which links they are clicking, which CTA buttons they are clicking. So that helps understand search engines that how well your content is for your target audience, and
Okay,
that what makes it easy.
okay, great, Humani. So make sure it is indexable, and then try to have quality content that people share and link to our content as well. Okay, great. Okay,
Yeah.
another answer? Yeah.
So I think I'm going to come across this from a 360 angle. I'm always thinking that instead of trying to improve content, like I don't want to be thinking about improving content when I'm creating content. That's like the last thing on my mind, because content updates or making content better after it's been written is a chore. It's difficult. It's something I don't even do as a service for clients. So right off the bat, rather than thinking of improving content for search engines, how can you make the content so cohesive, so exhaustive that it can stand the test of time? I think that's a better approach for me when looking at it. So I would look at it from getting it right the first time. And that includes making sure that the brief is cohesive, making sure that you're taking cues from SEP. What is the SEP asking you to do? Is he asking you to create video? Is he asking you to create a downloadable plan? What is it asking you to do to make sure that you end up on page 1? That is, what is everyone else creating that you should also be making? What can you do to go deeper when you're discussing the H2s and the H3s? What have people not covered that makes sense to you to cover to kind of set your content above the rest as better than everyone else? What are the recent stats that you can include to back up your claim so that you become an authority and then Google is seeing that you're not just talking through your ass? How many secondary keywords can you optimize this page for so that it's ranking for a bunch of more keywords? How many entities can you include here so that Google has as much context as possible? What are the internal links that we're going to be adding into this content page so that Google can see that this is the topical structure that we're trying to build for this article? Okay, we have that topical structure. We don't want this content to exist in a vacuum. Where is it going to sit? Inside which cluster is it going to sit in? Are there any authority figures that we can quote for this article? Do we have any real life examples that we can use? So all of all this stuff I'm saying, it's already making the content better. It's already making the content so exhaustive that in a year's time, when you come back to it, you're going to find that more than 90% of what you've written is still relevant. So optimization is easier when it doesn't feel like you're writing the article from scratch, because the original piece is good, like it's really, really good. And again, this is probably why I don't ever take on content of
Yeah,
the
great.
tabs.
No, I definitely agree with Chima, because I think a lot of times people get confused between improving content and they mix it up to think, oh, for me to improve content I have to repurpose it. But repurposing is a completely different thing. You know, you can repurpose the content, but it still needs major improvement. So you kind of have to look at it from the direction that Chima has spoken about, that if you have done the research initially and sort of have that extensive brief, in order to at least to know what you need to include if you're actually using search data, and not search data in terms of, okay, let me run this through SEMrush, let me run this through HRS, but actually Google it yourself, see what comes up when you're, utilizing that specific keyword, what searches are coming up, what, look at the people also ask or related searches. It gives you an idea of the kind of topics you want to sort of include in that one content. So if you ever have to repurposing it is just taking what's really good and diversifying it to become shareable elsewhere, or repurposing it, or maybe you talk about one topic and there's a specific niche that you can pick out of it and repurpose that niche. All of those different things and repurposing can fall into keywords or search intent. So I do think what Chiba says is absolutely golden, that if you get it right initially, then your content should last. Content shouldn't be a thing where you have to improve it every single year. And if you do, it just tells you that there's something missing. It should be able to sit there and last and become relevant, match any sort of fluctuation that happens in search volumes or search data. That content should still be sort of evergreen and sort of relevant for the users.
Yeah, great. Okay, Rory?
Can I be contentious and disagree somewhat? Okay, I'll give it a go. So I completely get it. I think if you do your research up front, understanding your keyword topics, where they are in terms of intent, and crafting holistic content, maybe using a hub and spoke model, like I know you've referenced, your real holistic content, link out to all the articles that target the long tail of a topic cluster. That's absolutely spot on, I think, 100%. Get it right first time. It will last a lot longer. The only thing that I would say is I have experienced situations where content, even if it's high quality, does depreciate over time based upon other competitors skyscrapering your content and making it better, maybe more holistic, more comprehensive. And then I've worked in operations where we actually split out our content resource, our SEO optimization resource for content, into sort of proactive content creation and reactive historical optimization. And we actually have teams going in on our highest performing posts and updating them on a periodic basis proactively to make sure that they don't drop in rankings. And we sort of negate the skyscraper technique before it happens. But I think everything that was said beforehand from Chima, Rejoice, I completely agree. That's so important. But I would say I have experienced moments where a separate resource for refreshing old content, improving freshness signals, etc., does have value. But it's all about keeping sharp on the intent of the keyword cluster that you're going after. And holistic, one hub, super hub article and then link out to all the sort of long tail articles. And topic clustering, semantic SEO, as Chima was saying earlier, absolutely spot on from my perspective.
Okay, I just want to add something here to what Rory said. What he said is really good. I think at the same time, we have to be realistic that most brands out there can't afford the resource that it takes to get a team or even get one person who is going to be dedicated to the task of updating content regularly. So if you're doing content for big companies like Rory's HubSpot, then most certainly that's something you can afford to do. Yes, that works because search intent sometimes is constantly, not constantly, it's sometimes it's changing. So to make sure that you're staying on top of what the search intent is, then definitely you need to be updating that content. But at the same time, we have to be realistic that most of the brands that are out there can afford to do content updates regularly, realistically. So yeah, let's just keep that in context. I agree with everything you said, Rory. Everything you said is correct. Everything you said is on points.
No, I get it, Chima. One of the so my previous life agency side for 7 years, and we would have clients where getting the content was the resource was really challenging, and we'd have moments where there was one article that was just really getting all the traffic, and it would be about basically de-risking that. So because if that does get hit, we wouldn't have enough articles that were ranking for additional keywords to sort of maintain the traffic levels, or at least the lead levels. So that was a real challenge because there wasn't the resource to do it. And whenever we focused on new content, we didn't have the resource for the existing content to keep refreshing it, and it would drop. So completely agree. And I think getting it right first time, as you said, is absolutely a focus. But if you do have the resource, consider refreshing old content periodically just to maintain it proactively. If you can.
Yeah,
Okay.
even I would like to add one more point over here is that, when we plan, multiple sort of, optimization, right? When we have these budget allocated everywhere. So what happens is that, we put a certain budget specifically to, only optimization, right? Because what happens is, some say, larger publishing sites or the websites that are highly busy, or even, the websites that are, very much crucial on, say, leads or conversions or something like that. What happens is that optimization becomes really important even if the content was published, say, last week or last before 2 weeks. So that's why what we have to do is we have to keep a separate budget, separate resource, or separate hours allocated, that every month we are going to optimize these content on a regular basis, right? So that's how even we plan it in that way. So I believe that update is something very much difficult. Obviously, I understand that that is not even feasible for all of the companies to spare resources there. But yes, it is something that maybe we can plan it in a, say, month or two, and maybe we can put some aside, some time or some resources that can help us with a little bit of tweaks every 2 months or something like that. Because otherwise then the content might become stale, because every day things are coming really quick. People are just like updating new things every day. Even if we talk about technology, every software is coming up with a new update almost every 2 months, right? So it becomes really important for all of us to make sure that the content is not stale and it keeps on updating.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Himani, for the edition. Okay, so yeah. Okay. Let's move to the next one. Okay, so who writes good content? How do you provide? Is it a copywriter or someone maybe outside from your agency or company or other team? And how do you provide a copywriter or the writer with the information they need to write the content that will perform well?
Yeah, I think Rory should lead this one first. Rory, lead this one first.
All right, let's give it a go. We'll go for it. Okay, so I think first off, if it's who writes good content, I guess it varies dependent on circumstance. So if you have in-house writers who are experts in the field of which, or the topic cluster that you're looking to rank for, and it's a high priority topic, i.e. it's hyper relevant to your buyer personas, I would certainly say in that instance, try and get your in-house writers on it. However, if you're looking to scale content, do consider things like building out a freelancer network for additional writers that are relevant to, writers who have expertise to some degree in the topics you're looking to target. That's a way of scaling if the budget's available and you don't want to hire in-house. Agency world and previous life, we had some writers in-house as well, but we did use a network because we needed experts in different fields. So that's more like the resourcing side. Budget obviously is a massive factor in that. And I think the very top level to give a good spec or the right information would be make sure you get your keyword research and search landscape analysis done properly. Build out a keyword targeting planner. So you've grouped keywords based on intent and topic. And then each row in your spreadsheet have a content spec built into that or linking off to a Google Docs page. And then provide on that page clearly the target keywords, a potential page title, a bullet points on exactly what the intent is, who the buyer personas are. You could also add things like, please include 2 FAQ questions and answer these questions, and you can use your keyword research to inform that. And finally, one of the most useful things that I found in the past is actually sharing who does rank in the top positions for this keyword cluster, this keyword intent grouping. So what are the top ranking URLs? And then share that with the writers, and then they will be able to reverse engineer and skyscraper a better asset than that of which is already ranking. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Great.
I just want to quickly...
Do you want to quick answer?
Yeah, I just want to quickly answer what we think. Everything he said is absolutely spot on. And I think it also, feeds into the second half of the question in terms of how do you provide copywriters this information. And it's really down to the content briefs. It's all down to the briefs you're giving the copywriters or anyone who is in-house or whatever. Because I think it provides you that clear structure, and it kind of justifies why you are writing this topic or why you're creating this content. And in the brief, a lot of times when I have worked within agencies, sometimes the briefs are very thin and they don't provide enough context, enough resources, especially if you're going to hire writers who do not have an SEO background, who are not SEO writers. I think there's a difference between having a copywriter and having an SEO copywriter, because they will understand what you're trying to do. They get the whole point of the importance of H1s and whether a keyword should be in a H1. They understand that. But all in all, the briefs should be quite full up and quite meaty for them to actually, anyone can take that brief and write the content, because I know what keywords to use. I know what keyword clusters you have chosen, what the metadata or title description should sound like, and also maybe in the briefs include what is the intent of this. Is this awareness piece? Is this a transactional intent that you're trying to fulfill? Again, all of that should go in your briefs, and I think the copywriters will have a much easier time to write in that content.
Right. And even on top of that, from what SEO things that we put in, what we can also do is that, we provide information on audience as well. That becomes really important when, we are focusing on customer journey, right? The stages at which the, content is, planned for. So maybe, providing who all are the audience, putting the customer journey, customer profiles. I would say that, we startups have this thing, they have created buyer's persona, and already those things are already ready, right? So what we do is we pick up that profile and we just link it to the content brief, where we showcase that why a person would be looking at it. So that is something that you can also add.
I just want to piggyback off what Vijay said about the briefs being the key, because when you say who writes good content, anybody can write good content. Anyone that has the correct amount of information can write good content. So when I'm creating briefs, maybe as part of an outsourced service for agencies, the first thing at the top of that brief is context. What is the keyword about? Okay, I say this person is at this stage in their journey. They've consumed this, they know this, and this is what they're looking for. The ideal next action is this. The CTA at the end of it should be this. Right off the bat, the writer has context. They have empathy, which is a massive part of writing good content. Once they have empathy, then it can flow down from there. I have the title, I have the primary keywords, I have the secondary keywords, I have suggested
Okay.
internal links.
Yeah.
I also have statistics at the end that I want them to include. I have what Rory said, which is the top 10 folks in my situation, the top 20 people who are ranking for that keyword. And then I have the H2s, H3s, which any person who understands SEO should
Yeah. Yeah.
understand. But I also have links in front of those H2s and H3s so that the
Mm-hmm.
writer has context of where I'm getting this subheading from and they don't have
Okay.
to figure it out on their own. So
Yeah.
if you give them all of this information,
Exactly.
then they can write really great content that performs well because right there in the writing, they're already optimizing, which kind of reduces
Mm-hmm.
the work for you when you get the piece back.
Okay, great. Okay, we will move. Okay, so we have some great discussions back then. Okay, now we will move to the Q&A session. Okay, let's see your question here. Okay, we have from Mary. When it comes to PPA, is it more interesting to target questions that are already answered in SERP or to try to get Google to include new questions in the PPA? By targeting questions that do not yet appear in the SERP but have potential in terms of search volume. Okay, who wants to answer this one? Maybe a little bit quick answer.
Sorry, I sneezed just before I was about to answer there. Yes, sorry about that. People also ask questions. I would say I would generally go to answer those that are listed as a starting point, and then look at whether or not you can build in a Q&A format style content piece, and then build some visibility with new questions. And some of the sources that you can look at there, social listening, if you can access that to see what questions are being asked about your brand or about a topic that you're trying to target. And also places like Reddit or other sort of forum style platforms, you can sometimes get some good questions that you might be able to answer that don't have notable search volume on Google. And there's a few tools that aggregate all of those together. Off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly one, but worth checking out. So yeah, that would be how I'd approach
Yeah.
that.
Okay,
I
yeah.
will quickly add to that I definitely agree, and I do think with the PPAs, I think it's a great way to also look at what overarching topic that falls under, because then, you know, in case you want to then build out more of a larger topic, especially if that question is quite niche, you can always look at it from perspective of, can this be included with any other topic, or can this be added to any other queries to kind of form a larger story. So you can still end up answering the same question, but what you have done now is given or provided more of a storytelling that includes that question and that answers that question. And you know, you might form other questions from trying to sort of expand it in that way. So yeah, it's good to sort of look at PPAs, but not always use it as Bible, but seeing what else around it can fit into it to kind of give yourself a better topic.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay,
Sorry,
yeah.
there's this tool called NeuraText that aggregates questions from Quora, Reddit, and all those places. So it's a really great place to kind of like look at data and then find questions and see what makes sense if you're trying to look for what to add in there. But I would ideally say use what Google is asking that makes sense to what you're writing. Pick from all those sources that you think. I think you can check on Quora and then see what is really gaining momentum there, because then that means that it's doing well at that end. And then you can just ask yourself what makes sense for what I've discussed in this article that I can throw in here to kind of like make it more complete. But definitely check out NeuraText.
Okay, great. Okay, so yes, sadly, we are in the end of our session, and yeah, but thanks a lot, Rory, Rejoice, Chima, and Himani for talking with us, and for the audience. Thanks a lot for joining and listening to the discussions and sending questions. Also, yeah, I'm saying thank you also on behalf of Oncrawl team. And then after this, they still have the other two episodes for today, the last day from SEO Kitchen Show, and you can move there to the session and joining. Okay. So yeah, thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you, Rory, Rejoice, Chima, Himani, and everyone who is joining. Okay, good morning, good afternoon, and good night.
Thank you,
Thank you for
everyone.
having us. Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bye.